Namaste and welcome to Mimamsa. My name is Manasa Manjunath, and today we are talking about mental health during the lockdown during COVID. Today I have with me Karishma Rajan Menon. She's a psychologist who's certified and practicing in Australia. Karishma, welcome to Mimamsa. So I'll let you introduce the topic and set a general disclaimer, so to say.
Okay. Thanks, Manasa. Very weird to call you that since I always call you Mani. But thanks, Manasa, for doing this. It's really important that we have discussions like this. So I'm Karishma, and I've finished my master's in clinical psychology, and I'm registered here in Australia to practice. And the general disclaimer, I guess, is that I'm not a total expert in all things mental health. We are all navigating through this together. So, what I bring to the discussion is things that I've read about, that we are all practicing over here, things that my colleagues are doing in this space, and what we can try to understand in this weird time, I should say.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yes, I think everybody has to remember that this is not specifically for one person or anything like that. This is like a more of a general discussion for me to understand and for everybody else who's tuned in also at the moment to understand. So let's get started at a very, very basic level. Um,
Mhm.
what is mental health for people who don't know about it or who are hearing this for the first time? I think mental health is now slowly getting some focus, whether in India or the world over. But in general, there are still a lot of questions about what exactly is mental health. So, what would you say to that?
I guess the very straightforward answer to that is it's just the state in which we think, we feel, and we act. The state that we are in. So that is exactly mental health, and how well we take care of how we are thinking, how we are acting, and how we are behaving kind of dominates if we are having a good mental health day or a bad mental health day. So it's kind of like this huge spectrum where basically it's about our thoughts, our behaviors, and our actions based on these thoughts and feelings that we have. So yeah, you're exactly right in saying that mental health is slowly picking up, but it's still something where there's a lot of stigma. I think it's more to do because it's something that we cannot see. So people think it's not real. So I like to give this like analogy of it being like air. We know it's there, we breathe it, doesn't mean it's not important or we don't require it. So that's exactly the importance of mental health. Just because we don't see it doesn't mean it's not there or it's not important for us to take care of our mental health, just like physical health.
Mhm. So it's something you take for granted as long as you have it, right? Because it's
Yeah,
not a big deal.
yeah. You wouldn't go out in the world and say, "Yay, I'm having a good mental health day," because that's considered to be a normal life, right? So
Mhm.
unless and until you have problems, people don't realize how good you had it before or things like that. So, which is quite sad. We want more people to say that I'm having a good mental health day or what they're doing to have a good mental health day and not just show the bad things. But I guess every step is important and we're doing the best we can.
Okay. Now, I think one of the other hindrances, so to say, or an obstacle to mental health and talking about it in public in general is because mental health is specific to each person, right? Like,
Yeah.
what is a good mental health day for me is not necessarily a good mental health day for you or somebody
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Um, now, we have one question. We can discuss this now or we can come to it later. How can someone recognize for themselves that they have a mental health problem?
That's a very interesting question, Karan. I guess the main thing that we like to tell our patients, or what we need to look out is just a general change in the way that we do things or the way that we've seen things. So, say for someone who has always liked, and this is a very generic example, but for someone who's always liked to go out, like to be social, or initiates things, or likes doing stuff, if suddenly they feel like they're losing interest in that, they don't want to do it anymore, they lack energy, but they can't pinpoint it to a specific thing, then I guess is where you start kind of considering what else is happening in my life. Why don't I like the things that I've liked before? Why is my routine changing? Changes in routine is a huge thing. So that person wouldn't want to go out and meet friends. They wouldn't want to eat what they used to or sleep at a particular time. So those are kind of indications that, okay, this is not exactly going the right way. But a mental health problem would be classified then. But then again, like a disorder is a completely different aspect. And that just accounts to your level of functioning. So anything that starts to affect your level of functioning, say social functioning, your daily functioning, you can't get up and do the things that you want to. Just having a shower is getting to be tiresome, or things like that. When it starts also, or work life, you are not as productive as you used to be, and it's happening for a prolonged period of time, say 6 months or so. It's different for different mental health conditions, and that's when you start to classify it as a disorder. So it's a huge spectrum of things.
Okay, but ideally, when you feel low or when you feel different, you need to initially also start taking steps to maybe see someone, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's always about early signs and early interventions, right? If you start to notice um the sooner that you can notice and start making changes, the better it's the better changes you can make. Whereas if you wait till the last stage where things have already hit the ceiling, then it's not impossible, but it takes a longer time and a lot more effort to bring back or go back to how you were, basically.
Yeah, so it's absolutely nothing different from even a normal physical injury, right? The longer you neglect it, the longer time you need to bounce back to normal. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
So from the general, let's go now into into COVID-19, into quarantine, and into lockdown. Okay. Now, what I have seen in my friends circle, in my family circle, is that there are a lot more people who are now starting to get a little worried. You can hear it in people's voices. You can see it in their eyes when you talk to people. Um, that they're a little scared. Some of them are a little anxious. So what do you see popping up here now in quarantine when people are all under lockdown, staying at home? What are you seeing, and what would you tell those people?
I guess it's very important to realize that this is not a normal time, but what we are feeling is completely normal, right? We've never had a crash course on Pandemic 101. So we've never known quite how to navigate through something like this. We've had daily stresses, we've had our fair share of breakups or loss of jobs, but we've never had the situation where the whole world is going through this, where nobody has an answer to what's happening, or how it's happening, or how long it's going to last. So I guess mm, uncertainty does give us this sense of stress, this anxiety. What do we do? What are we doing? How long are we going to do this for? So I guess the main thing is that because people have been told these things to do, there's a lot of, like I said, uncertainty. There's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of frustration on not being able to do things that you want to because of these restrictions that are there. And because of that, as a result of that, there's added another layer of feeling low, feeling sad, isolation, loneliness. Um, and other things. And sometimes, unfortunately, some people are also forced to stay in environments or families that are not very healthy for them. So going out was kind of like an escape for them. And because all that is restricted, I guess there's a rise in those issues as well, of being, yeah, kind of being unable to get an escape or go out. So problems arising from that as well.
Okay. Um, what kind of symptoms should you look out for when now you're in quarantine or in lockdown? What kind of symptoms should we watch out for where you can say that, oh, okay, maybe I need to take care of myself a little more now. I need to pay attention to this a little more.
Yeah. I guess it's really important to first and foremost establish that it is completely normal to have any feeling that you're having. And that can be sadness, that can be anger, that can be frustration, that can be happy. Some of you may be happy that you don't have to see your boss every day or whatever it is. Um, it's completely natural and normal to have any of these feelings. Like I said, it's each one of us trying to navigate it through a way that we know, right? So I guess the symptoms to kind of watch out for is if it's kind of like these feelings that have a little bit of negative tinge to it. So say like anger or frustration. How long are you feeling it for? Like, is it just like a blow up you have with your partner or your friends or your family, and then you're done, you're okay when you vented it out? Or is every single thing triggering you? Are you starting to notice that you're not feeling hungry at all, or you're feeling excessively hungry? Is your sleep very limited? Is your sleep too much? And then again, like if you're working, do you still enjoy working even though things have changed? Do you still look forward to it, or is it just like you hate it and you hate the whole world? So are you starting to catching yourself having these like repetitive kind of unhelpful thoughts of I can't cope with this, I can't do this, things will never change, there will never be a good time, and then that ultimately affecting your feelings about the situation, making you excessively angry or whatever, and then what you do about it. So those are the major signs. And like we touched upon before, the major thing being changes in routine. So that's a very important point, I think, that we should go a bit in detail about as well, because our routine is disrupted, right? So
Yeah.
there has been a change in routine. So it's not like nothing's changed. Um, so yeah, it's how big that change is and what are you doing about that change, I guess, and how that change affected you. But we can go more on that later on, like how to build a routine and everything.
Okay. Now, let's continue with this, talking about what you have to do to maintain a routine. Yes, last
Yeah.
week I spoke to Swati about working from home, and this is again
Yeah.
something she emphasized. And she said you have to have a routine where you follow a certain schedule for yourself. So,
Mm.
can you go into that? Like, how important is a routine for mental health, and especially now that you're at home and stuff?
Yeah, like I said, for in this kind of crisis time or this time, I think the major problem is uncertainty, right? It's getting in touch with the reality that this thing is not in our control. We can't do things to fix this. We can't do things to change the situation. So we are feeling a lot more overwhelmed. We are feeling a lot more uncertain about this. So I guess the thing about routine is that it comes down to the thing that we can actually control. We can actually control what time we get up. We can control what are we doing in that morning time. We can control what time we are going to regularly have our meals and what we do with our time. So I guess routine gives us that bit of control that we so need in this time of uncertainty. And that's what it adds to it, where we know that, okay, it's 5 p.m. This is my time of just finishing my work and unwinding myself to a cup of tea or coffee and just listening to music, regardless of what's happening outside. So I guess routine plays into that structure that you want, where outside is so unstructured.
So it's looking for small things that you have under control, because everything else is not under your control.
Yeah. Yeah. And routine is also very important, not just in crisis, like just generally having a discipline or having a set routine is, like I said, it's you teaching yourself, your body, your thoughts, your feelings to kind of navigate your life, however it is. And the more that you do it, the more it kind of helps you to expect what's to happen in a way.
Okay. Now, I would like to go into the routine, but one aspect of the routine, there's also a comment about this. How important is physical exercise when it comes to mental health, and especially now? Now, when you're at home, you're confined to your house, and again, options become a lot more limited.
Yeah. I guess regardless of a pandemic, a global pandemic or not, physical exercise is very important, and there's tons of research to say why. Exerting our body does scientifically lead to release of certain hormones in your body, the happy, feel-good hormones, which generally gives you the sense of feeling happy or feeling nice. So physical exercise regardless of pandemic is really important, but at this time I guess when we are especially under lockdown, when our activity is so limited, I guess people don't realize it. If they're going out for work and if they have like a regular time, they step out for work or go out to buy things or shop for things, but they're becoming more aware, like when you sit at home for day in and day out and not having to move basically, that how bad that is for our thoughts after a while. So physical exercise is very important. And that can also be, when you say physical exercise, there's again kind of like this notion that it has to be like a full blown workout. um, with like there's plenty of like videos of people and celebrities sharing their workouts, and you sitting there and being like, personally being like, I can't do any of this. So it's finding the simple things that you can do. It's grooving to a dance that you enjoy. It can be as simple as from your chair just doing standing and sitting for like 20 times. um but what's also kind of
Or
important,
even
and what,
jolly kocha when you're at home.
yeah, yeah, exactly, doing things that you always avoided doing, saying work, so sharing responsibilities of household chores. But I guess it's also important that for people who can, and who have that kind of environment, that if you can at least step out of your house, because um, you are allowed to kind of go to your balcony or your backyard, or in countries, some countries, you are allowed to go out for half an hour of exercise. So if you can do that, it's important to just step out and breathe in that air that is not just inside your house, and get a bit of a sun if there is sun, for people who can. But for people who can't, like I said, it's just finding room or a space in your house where you can just do something, jump, sit, dance. um, yeah, so it's very
Yeah.
important regardless of pandemic or not.
Yeah, and I think now with the pandemic on, and with so many people under lockdown, like you said, there are so many videos that celebrities are posting online, and there are so many resources. If you are looking for a way to exercise or be physically active, even in your house, there are multiple ways to do it. I
Yeah.
personally use Nike Training Club. This is not an endorsement; they are not a sponsor. Uh,
We wish
but
it was a
I
sponsor, but no.
Oh, I would love that if they sponsored. Yes, definitely. But
Yeah.
I find it very good in the sense that they have workouts without any equipment. They have for 5 minutes for a beginner. where you
Yeah.
just stretch, or up to like 1 hour where you do proper yoga or you do a proper workout.
Yeah.
So if that is your excuse that you don't know what to do or how to do, please look at 90
Yeah.
90 Training Club. Um,
Yeah, there's plenty of apps, and even there's like dance apps. There are a couple of accounts that are offering free dance tutorials
mhm.
uh, during the crisis. So if you're into dancing and you don't want to do a traditional workout, then you can do stuff like that. There's plenty of things. Like, it's a different thing to say you can't find it now when you have access to so much. So that's a completely different topic of motivation and what you want to do. Yeah.
Okay. So if anybody else has any suggestions that people can have a look at, then please post it in the comments so that other people can also have a look. Now let's move on a little bit. You touched upon this earlier, but there's also a comment about this. So there are a lot of people who have been who are under lockdown, who are not close to their families, whether they are in a completely different country or a city. It's a different thing. But what about people who are alone? Who are or who are just like with friends, or how should they be dealing with this situation, with this time in general?
Yeah, I think living alone has its own challenges, regardless of what the state is in. Like, there are days where you like it, there are days where you just want to curl up in your mother's lap, I guess. So, I guess with the whole lockdown, it's important to understand it's that basic sense of connectedness that we miss, that basic sense of connection that we feel when you go to work or you step out and take public transport. It's people around you. You are part of something. So I guess it is extremely difficult to navigate it when you're alone, but some of the steps you can take for it um, is, I guess, because we have access. Some of us are fortunate to have access to internet or such social media kind of things. I think it is to ensure that you stay in touch with your people, you call your people, you set a time to check in with them to see how they're doing. Or I've always heard people saying, I'm not free, they're not free at the same time. It's very difficult to kind of pinpoint a particular time that we can sit and have a chat. And I guess that's where it becomes a bit difficult, where you have to find this time where you sit. So something that's actually worked out for me and a couple of my friends as well is you don't have to sit down and have a chat basically. Like, if you have access to WhatsApp or FaceTime or whatever you use, just switch it on and do your own thing. If you're cooking, let them be there in the background doing their thing. You can be watching something. And we tried out Netflix Party as well. So you can watch the same show together and chat on the side. So it's things like that where you can establish that sense of connection with someone, I guess. So it's you initiating that effort, but then if someone says, oh, I don't have time, just saying, I'm gonna call you anyway, just keep me there, as long as they're not working on anything. Just saying, just keep me there in the background and I'll be there.
Yeah, I think what's also very nice, like you touched about this too, that WhatsApp has this feature where you can send a voice message. So if they are busy, they send a voice message. I think sometimes just hearing somebody's voice makes such a big difference, you know.
Yeah, yeah. And again, it's what works for you, right? Some people are more comfortable over video calls and they want to see the face. Some people are more comfortable with audio, they just want to hear someone. So finding out what works for you and what makes you more happy. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important to remember. I think the problem is that they've called it social distancing, right? But actually, it's physical distancing.
That was my point that I've actually written down here about like tips is we've transitioned over here to not call it social distancing anymore. It's because social distancing has this kind of concept that we are socially distancing ourselves, right? And being social doesn't entirely mean that you're just next to someone. So In fact, it's physical distancing whilst maintaining social connectedness in whatever way you can. So you're exactly right. Social distancing, just I don't know who came up with it, but for mental health, it's not doing anyone any good.
Yeah, so I think this is something everybody has to remember. Like here in Germany, it's called contact forbot. So you're not allowed to come in contact with anybody, but you can talk to people and stuff.
Okay, yeah, that makes more sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's move on. This is again something you spoke about. Uh, Now, during this time, a lot of companies are not working. So they're either cutting working hours, but some companies are going one step further and they're laying a lot of people off, right?
Hmm.
So layoffs have already come for a lot of people, or they are in the coming for some people. And of course, there is a lot of anxiety about this. What is your advice, particularly for people like this who either have been laid off or who are expecting a layoff to come to them?
Yeah. Again, layoffs are not a great time, right? Like, regardless of whatever. It's kind of like this interesting concept that we have in psychology, known as hierarchy of needs, where there's like a basic level of hierarchy where it's food, water, sex, and then there's other of like security, and then it just builds up. So, what we are threatened about is that basic level and higher level needs, right? Like, we don't know if how long this is going to last. We don't know if there's panic buying because we don't know if our food supplies are going to last, or we don't know if there's enough security for us, and especially financial security, right? Like layoffs, people don't know how long they're going to have the job, how can they survive through this, and it's a very tough time. So I guess the main point is it's kind of easy and completely natural for us to go into this catastrophizing, or this like everything is bad, or I will surely get let off, and then start to behave in ways or act in ways that actually lead to your layoff. But if you are in that unfortunate situation where your company can no longer hold on to you, I would guess it's to kind of look at other options, um, and look at ways where what can you do with your time if you know that this is going to come up. Are there other organizations that you can apply for that want people? Are there other work from home options? And knowing that this is a transition phase, people have gone into work from home and everyone's trying to deal with it, but the world still needs employees. There's still work out there. So finding places that can employ you when you're working from home, um, or if you're someone who is financially secure, then maybe if there's any volunteering jobs you can take up, um, or supporting people through that, basically. But layoffs in general are troubling and worrying. So I guess it would be to stop, um, not stop, but try to reduce your catastrophization that this will never end, but rather focus on what can I do to change things that I can control now. So, what jobs do I look out for, or what do I do?
Yeah, I think it's important also to focus that this will end at some point because we know the Black Plague ended, we know the Spanish flu ended. It ends, it does end. And at that time, I think again, people will buy stuff. So jobs will come back. I
Yeah.
think that is also something people can think about.
Yeah, and it might not be, people might be worried about, oh, I've stayed in this job for 5 years, 10 years, and this is my routine. But any change is going to be overwhelming. And this pandemic is also a change for us. But change necessarily doesn't mean that we can't cope with it. Our anxiety and our unhelpful thoughts are telling us that we can't cope with it. So it's for up to us to find ways that we can cope with it, no matter how it is.
Mhm. You spoke about working from home. There's a question about that. How do I deal with sudden, short lived bursts of productivity? How do you prolong this?
Yeah, so it's a very interesting question because I think the whole concept of productivity is being spoken a lot, right? Like there's this whole push for everyone to be productive. Like I've never heard productivity used so much than I have in the last month, you know.
Yeah.
People were just living, but now it's like every breath that I take needs to be productive. Um, so I guess it's important to understand that if it works for you, it works for you. Like being productive 24 hours in a day is a very unrealistic goal. So if you're getting short bursts of productivity, use that. And if you're getting these short bursts, try and notice when you're getting it. So, like, is it in the morning? Is it in the afternoon? Is it when you're doing things? Is it when you're sitting by yourself? And then trying to do that more. So, for example, for me, um, I realized that morning I think a lot better after a cup of tea, after a cup of coffee, rather than late at night. So if there's something important work related, I would rather do it in the morning than night, where I know I can ensure I can be productive. And usually afternoons are kind of regarded as a slump in the day.
Yeah,
Uh,
after heavy lunch.
yeah, exactly. So it's kind of noticing at what times are you being this productive self, and then doing that a lot more. But then again, I guess this whole productivity, like I said, is another debate um, that we can come to later. But yeah.
Okay. I think what I can also suggest is this is what Swati told me last week. She again used what you said, identify a time of day when you're most productive, and use that ideally. And she said to batch your stuff. And this has worked for me. I've been doing this for the last 2 days. To Yeah, I mean, like, who thought, right? Uh, so basically, to bunch up your work, like to yeah, to segregate your work into different parts and do only emails when you are like, I don't know, when you're not being so productive or when you're not in the mood. So answer all the emails and then go to stuff which need more concentration when you are being productive. So I found that worked very well for me.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, another thing is social media, right? This is something you spoke about. It's like a double-edged sword, because it can do a lot of good, but at the same time, it can also do a lot of harm. Um,
Mhm.
I've been posting videos of cooking at home, and then I have friends who are like, "Oh."
I've been seeing that, yes.
Yeah. So how do you handle social media? Like, I'm sure for some people it is doing a world of good to see their friends and family, but I think for other people it's also like everybody's being productive or everybody's having a good time and doing
Yeah.
stuff you've never
And
done.
everyone's making these like very intense meals, you know. You're like, this is too much. I have a can of beans in my home. What do I do with that? Uh, so I guess, um, yeah, social media. Wow. Um,
I've opened a whole can of worms now, no?
yeah, it's like, yeah, verbal diarrhea now. But I guess it's important. Um, when is social media not a double-edged sword, regardless of pandemic, right? And I think that's the main theme of this. A lot of things that's happening now are things that we should just follow in general life, right? But it's become like a huge thing just because we are stuck in our home and this is enforced on us. And now we are thinking, oh shit, we don't want to sit with our thoughts or our feelings or whatever. And I'm like grinning evilly when I say that. But uh, I guess what I'm trying to say is that social media at whatever time is, it's you are consuming what you want to consume. So there's a lot out there regarding information on the virus, on COVID-19, and what's happening. There's news about death counts, there's videos. So I guess the important thing is restricting yourself. If you notice yourself getting conscious or getting very nervous reading these news. I guess the only way, I think, like one of our viewers are saying, just don't touch it. Probably restricting yourself while you're restricting yourself to the news. So keeping 30 minutes in the morning or in the evening to watch news if you want to stay updated, but otherwise unsubscribing from all those channels that put up videos or things that are distressing for you. And it's also important to kind of find valid sources of information, and stick to that. It's not, you're not doing anyone good if you're watching 10 news channels with the same information. And you're not doing anyone any good if you're watching 10 news channels who are fighting with each other for information. So if you find a valid,
Or forwarding
credible
these things to
source,
other people.
yeah, exactly. So it's finding something that's credible and just sticking to that one source. I would say for news, but for the rest, I think memes are doing us a whole lot of good.
Oh,
Uh, navigating, finding the humor while we can't. So again, like I said, with social media, it comes down to what you want to consume. If you are someone who wants to experiment with that, like cooking videos or whatever, subscribe to just that and experiment with that. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. And I guess this is a good segue into the whole productivity concept as well, right? There's this whole push of celebrities and everyone saying, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And then people ranting about, yeah, you're privileged. You can do this, you can do that. We can't. So I guess the main thing would be productivity um, does not equate to self-worth, right? So if you equate your productivity or how you're feeling about it to your self-worth, then that's where it becomes problematic. Just because you are cooking today doesn't mean that it is very that you are the best, basically, or that you should feel the best. So it's identifying what's important to us, our basic values, um, and then yeah. So sorry, I got distracted by a comment. Yeah, it's identifying what is important, what values we hold, what do we want to do, and just consuming that. Because, like I said, there is no normalcy right now. So you don't have to be doing all of these things. There's no set way to be doing all these things. So it's just finding what you like and doing that if it works for you.
yeah. I think this is what you just said about being productive. I think one thing which has been, at least in my friend circle, that's been making the rounds is, oh, this, you have so much time available to you now, and you should use this time to finally do that course that you've been looking at or find a new talent. But then this person is also like, there are also other posts which say that, yeah, this is also a time when, which nobody anticipated. You're not sitting at home jobless. Some people are working from home. If you don't have work from home, you still have to do, you may have kids at home or you have family to look after, right? So it's completely okay if you don't come out of this lockdown with, I don't know, like a new certificate for some software
Yeah,
tool, or speaking a new language, or like it's
yeah.
completely fine, right?
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, it's regardless of lockdown, right? Like, what is your self-worth? Is it accountable to what you're doing? Like, is that all that matters? And having these kind of achievables and deliverables or whatever you want to call it. Um, no, this lockdown is not an indication. If you want to learn that language, learn it whenever you want. Um, and I guess it's also that kind of weird twist that yeah, celebrities post about it because this is the time where they sit by themselves and they're not bombarded by paparazzi or like with their, if it's like actors with their film or whatever, and they can sit and talk about all of this. But I guess for us, it's just finding what makes us happy, right? And I guess one of the most important things that we say to people who are feeling low mood and when they feel that they don't want to do anything is this concept of finding things to do that has either or either one of these qualities. One is a source of pleasure, so whatever makes you happy, and one is a source of mastery, so whatever makes you feel like you're achieving something.
Mhm.
So it doesn't, and that source of mastery as well, it doesn't have to be this new learning Latin or whatever. It's I've always wanted to learn how the inside of my car looked, right? So simple things like that. Setting realistic goals, I guess, is very, very important.
Yeah. Um, let's move on from that. Let's talk about sense of community. Now, something that has been going on in all countries across the world is these small acts of community, right? Like the UK had this time where all of them came out and clapped for NHS workers, for their medical workers. India did the same thing; they came out and they clapped. You've seen videos from Italy and from China with like neighbors singing to each other. Here in my backyard over the weekend, there was this entire building. Everybody was out in the balcony and like they were taking it turns to blast music from the balcony, which in Germany, if you are from Germany, is unheard of because Sunday is Ruhetag. Ruhetag is like a quiet day where nobody makes any noise. Like if you go outside, it is a dead town. But last
Yeah.
Sunday at I think around 6 or 7 in the evening, these people are out in their balconies and they are literally blasting music. So this sense of community, this how important is this during this time?
Mm. I guess it again comes back to that connectedness, right? Like we all feel we are fighting this battle by ourselves, but it's reminders like these that make us feel that we are not alone in this. People are going through this in different ways. It's affecting people in different ways, but the end of it, it is affecting each one of us, right? If it's a job, if it's your studies or your relationships, your social life, whatever it is affecting each one of us. And it's one of those things where I guess we can't do anything about it. So why not do this? Where it's not harming anyone, it's not, if done in the right way, may I add, it's not harming anyone. So why not join in the sense of connectedness and connect with the world and people around me that yes, we are all going through this together, and that we can overcome this together, I guess, in a way.
Mhm. Um, one last question. This is a little personal for me also. So when one thing which is there, which is very highlighted in the news with COVID, is the number of deaths that are coming out of every country. So one thing that I have also been thinking about is mortality, right? Like we are all going to die at some point of time. Yes, I know that.
Yeah.
But now with these like statistics coming out, where if you have pre-existing conditions or if you're on the older side, that you are more vulnerable to COVID. Uh,
Mhm.
so when you have these thoughts about your own mortality or even the mortality of your, like when you think about your parents or your grandparents who are even more vulnerable to this virus,
Yeah.
what do you think about this? What would you advise people who are thinking about this?
Yeah, I guess mortality in itself is scary for people. It's again the unknown. Nobody knows what's happening, what's going to happen when you die. You don't want to die. There's a lot surrounding mortality,
uh,
right?
Karishma, your audio is a little.
Can you hear now?
Yeah, now it's better.
I
Yeah.
haven't done anything.
Okay.
Did I? Is it better?
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. So I was saying that mortality in itself at any time is scary. It's unknown. It's uncertain. And like I said, media is not helping us in that aspect. So if you're someone who gets overwhelmed or gets anxious reading about the deaths, the only, like I said, it's limiting yourself to the news that you're consuming, and also taking steps to ensure that you're being safe and you're following your hygiene protocols. So, like you were saying, if you're worried about your family members, it's ensuring that you're listening to the restrictions, you're staying at home, you're doing things that are healthy, because there's an interesting meme that I saw, and I come back to memes because it's honestly a big relief for me, where COVID-19 is a guest that you have to go out and call to your house, right? It's not going to just enter your house.
Yeah.
So if you take those steps, I guess we can all assure that we are being safe and we are being protected. But if you're someone that worries about that, is to stop consumption of news that shows death rates and restricting yourself to that. And then I guess it's something that's really important, and that's kind of evidence based that it works as well, is not just for mortality, but if you have just general worries. And I kind of want to pin this point that's here that someone has posted. Can you do that? Mega's point?
Yeah, I was just gonna come to that. This one,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Congrats, Mega. But let's continue on what I was saying. So when it is any worry, be it mortality, be it overthinking, be it like catastrophizing, or all of that, one of the basic strategies, we like to call it keeping yourself a worry time.
Mm-hmm.
So what that means is each time you get the status saying that this is not my time to worry, I'm going to keep a specific time to worry about this, which is going to be evening 6 o'clock to 6:15, right? 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I'm going to sit and worry the hell out of this, right? Worry till my brain explodes, and monitor this, right? And what's interesting is that we feel like our overthinking and our worry can't be controlled. But this exercise is a good reminder to say that when we're setting aside a time, you start to notice that when that time comes, you don't want to worry about it because it's not that big a deal.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to be the person who says that this is how it is. I would like you to try and let me know if that actually works. But it's setting aside this time to actually sit and worry about it. Yeah, and another interesting thing that's been shared is don't think. I guess as human beings, it's impossible for us to not think. It's a kind of like this activity that we do in our undergrad psych class is everyone stop thinking about a white elephant. Stop. I don't want you to think about a white elephant.
I'm thinking exactly
Yeah,
about
you are
that right
exactly
now.
thinking about a white elephant. Exactly. And this is when we're all like, oh, psychology, yeah. So, um, so yeah, I guess it's the narrative should be not to um stop thinking, but kind of redirecting our thoughts to helpful stuff. So, redirecting our unhelpful patterns, our unhelpful ways of thinking to much to things that are happy, to things that are helpful, to things that are useful for us.
Mhm.
Mm.
Okay, awesome. So we are closing up on the 1 hour mark, and I really like to start winding up now.
Yeah.
So one thing I want to talk about, um, and this is what I started with also, is mental health in general. So mental health has been around for ever since people are there, but it's something that is now slowly getting some amount of attention. So something that I saw on my social media, this was shared by a YouTuber, was that it says, so her story said, I saw someone say that people who have anxiety aren't panicking like everybody else. We are not out there buying 10 plus rolls of toilet paper. Do you know why? This is our normal state. To us, the world is ending every single day. And it's interesting watching everyone act the way our brains think on a daily basis. It sucks, doesn't it? To be in this constant state of fear and helplessness, to feel the impending doom, but we feel absolutely powerless about it. Welcome to our world. This is our everyday. Sincerely, everyone with severe anxiety. So this really hit it home for me, right? I have never spoken about, or I have never actively spoken about mental health. It's
Mm.
always been there. So for me, in a way, this this is like the silver lining to the pandemic, that people are finally talking about mental health. How do you look at it? Is this also your takeaway, that maybe the plus side of this entire thing is that maybe we'll start speaking a little more about mental health in general now that people know how it feels?
Hmm. I really, really wish for that to happen. But I guess it is kind of a blanket statement to say that everyone is experiencing that, right? Different people
Mhm.
experience anxiety in different ways, and there are a lot of different emotions that are happening. So it's kind of like a blanket statement to say that everyone's going through a crisis.
Mhm.
It's changing times, it's unsettling times, it's uncertain times, but not necessarily everyone is going through a crisis. But I really hope that people do, at the end of this, find that what you do, what you think about, basically impacts what you feel and what you're doing. And that it's very important to take care of mental health, and that we shouldn't be neglecting it or taking it for granted. You don't have to go to a therapist when there's only you don't have to go to a therapist only if you're having a problem, right? You can just go see someone. If you have the resources, you can go and see someone to just explore and know more about yourself, or what you want to achieve in life and how to achieve those things. um, it's sad that it's taken a crisis for us to realize all of that, but I guess it's still important that people are realizing. And it's very heartening to see a lot of communities and NGOs and places offering free services to people during this crisis, so people can get a sense and feel of how it's like talking to a psychologist, and navigating through these times. Um, yeah, so I hope things change, but um, I am I want to be an optimist, but I'm a realist. So I know it's a it's a big step in future, but let's hope that people do realize its importance anyway.
Okay. Um, Now, is there something you would like to add in general to this topic about mental health in under lockdown?
Um, could you pin Alina's comment? I think that's a really good one to kind of discuss.
Second, yeah.
Um, yeah, and this is generally, I think, something that's kind of like the buzzword is mindfulness.
Hmm.
Um, there's a lot of there's a lot of apps surrounding it. There's a lot of information surrounding it, and there's a lot of research that's coming up based on mindfulness, which basically means being present at the moment. And it's not stopping or repressing your thoughts, but it's just being aware of your thoughts. And it kind of goes in line with the whole, how do I reduce stress, how do I reduce overthinking, and all of those questions as well. Is one of the easiest and nicest exercise that I like to do for myself, and even tell my patients, is grounding exercise. And this grounding exercise is basically you being aware of your senses, right? So you just closing your eyes, and focusing on things you can hear, opening your eyes, looking at things you can see, things you can smell, things you can touch, things you can feel. Is that all fine? Yeah, that's all fine. Yeah.
Okay.
So you can do it as 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So basically, looking around for 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can smell, 2 things you can. So basically, it's a very easy and quick grounding exercise. When you feel overwhelmed, it brings you back to reality. It brings you back to the current situation to just notice your immediate environment. And it's a good workout as well. And mindfulness, more kind of advanced or regular mindfulness, like just being aware of your thoughts. There's a lot of apps that do guided mindfulness.
Mhm.
uh, so just like I said, just being aware of your thoughts. You're not trying to suppress it, you're not trying to repress it. You're just being aware of it and let it pass. And people have said that it works wonders. um, and things like, when was the last time you it's a really interesting one that I like to do, like when you shampoo your hair, noticing how the shampoo feels. Like, when did you stop and notice how the lather feels, or how it feels on your head? It feels very different on your scalp to your hand.
Mhm.
um, so noticing that when you're washing dishes, these are things that we do in our lockdown. So when you're washing dishes, how does that feel? How does the water feel? How does the when you're scrubbing the dirt away, what does it look like with lather, without lather? These are all small mindfulness activities, but it's a great way to keep us rooted to the present.
Mhm. Okay, that's really good advice. Actually, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It sounds, because I've tried mindfulness. I'm still working my way around it.
Yeah, yeah, and
But I think.
it's a skill, so it needs practice,
Mhm.
and it needs commitment. So yeah.
Yeah, but I think this, what you just said, this grounding exercise, this 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hmm.
This is something even I can do. Because
Yeah.
we both know my my attention
Attention
span.
span, yes.
um, I have one last question, and again, this is a personal question. You know that I hate sitting at home. Like, I
Hmm.
have to go out. This is you. This is not just for me. This is my sister. This is my mom. Also, you've seen we have to go out once in a day.
Girls.
It's a disease, yeah.
No, I said city girls, not a
Yeah,
disease.
city girls.
Yeah.
Uh, so what do you want to say, or what would you say to people like me who are like, oh, I have to go out. I just cannot stay at home.
Mm. Um, I guess the important reminder to all of this is removing our shoulds and haves.
Karishma, your mic is again a little soft.
Can you hear now?
Yeah, now it's okay.
Okay. I guess the important reminder is for us to not have these haves and shoulds at this time, because there's no normalcy. Like I said,
Mhm.
there's no haves and shoulds, and the should be doing this, I should be achieving this, I have to be doing this, is again an unhelpful pattern, right? So it's understanding that it is difficult. I can't go out, but what else can I do instead? How can I replace that time? Can I go out for exercise? Can I stand in my backyard? Can I garden? Can I do something else in that time? And it's also, like I said, that haves and shoulds, converting that to um, yeah, what can I be doing instead that's going to actually help me,
Mhm.
that's actually going to make me feel less shitty, um, and just make me survive through this and cope through this in whatever way I can. It doesn't have to be the best way, but whatever way I can.
Okay, I'm going to try that. Although I have been staying at home, I must say, I really have been staying at home. When I start to get very annoyed, I open the window and I look outside.
Yeah, which is good. And that's why I said, even if it's for 10 minutes, if you can just step out, look at the sky, see if you can find patterns in clouds. I don't know. I like that a lot. Yeah. So,
Yeah, I think yeah, it's different for everybody, right? Like Karan
yeah.
really likes staying at home.
Karan?
Really likes staying at home.
Yeah, that's the village in us, the town in
Okay.
us. Yeah.
So we've hit the 1 hour mark. So I want to I want to give you one last question. So we've spoken about a lot of different things. Now I'm going to ask you to condense this entire 1 hour into 5 tips. Five
Oh.
things you think people should be doing, or people can do to take care of themselves um,
Hmm.
during lockdown.
Okay. I think condensing it. I think first and foremost, having a routine that works for you. So, and sticking to that routine. So if that's waking up at a set time, having meals at certain times, working or doing something at certain times, sticking to that. And if you're someone who enjoys kind of dressing up or going out, doing that at home, and I think it's interesting you touched upon that in your work from home video as well, is dressing up and staying at home. Um, like myself, it's 10:30 p.m. in Australia, and I have lipstick on. So um, yeah, so it's dressing up and doing things that you would normally do. Another thing would be, like I said, connectedness is very, very important. So, setting aside some time of your day where you can check in on your family, check in on your friends. If your partner lives far away, having virtual dates is quite nice. I've heard good stuff about virtual dates. Um, so yeah, so that's how many things? Three things. Exercise, very, very, very important. Exercise for your body and for your brain, which can be the mindfulness exercise. Um, so exercise, and I guess the last thing being, it's okay to not be okay, would be my kind of like overall message. If you're having an off day, just let it be. If you want to stay in bed till 1 p.m., 2 p.m. in your pajamas, and eat junk food, don't be so hard on yourself that you didn't be productive or whatever. And it's again just being mindful about how long are you doing this for, what are you losing out on, and then coming back to it. So, amidst all of this, if you're having a couple of days where you're just, nah, I give up on life, then go for it. Um, and cope in whatever way you can. But the main thing being, yeah, routine, exercise, dress up, connectedness, very, very, very important. Um,
And
yeah,
your last point is basically just saying be kind to yourself, right? Like it's okay to
it's
not
okay.
do everything you're supposed to do.
Yeah, and it's okay to feel shitty. It's okay to not know what you're doing. It's okay to feel bad, feel guilty. But have someone that you can speak to about it, that you can check in about it. If you feel like you're one of those people who tend to go down in a downward spiral, then have a person you can check in with and say, hey, I'm having a bad day today, but if I don't come back out of it in 2 days, I want you to check in with me. Just to being accountable to yourself for that, for your mental health, and for making sure that you're checking in with your friends and your loved ones about that as well. And then if it really gets to a point where it's really, really too much and nothing is working out, then reaching out to a professional psychologist. Like I said, there's a number of places that are offering free services or discounted services to people. So accessing that and getting a feel for yourself, how that feels like, and finding the right person that fits for you, I guess.
Okay. So I think with that, we've come to the end of our chat on mental health during the lockdown or during the pandemic. Thank you so much for talking to me. I
Thank
learned
you
a
for
lot.
letting me talk.
Yeah, so thank you so much for talking to me. I would love to talk to you again, hopefully during a different time when not all of us are stuck at home. Um,
Yeah,
and then maybe talk a little more about mental health in general, go into specific topics. Maybe we can address disorders or something.
yeah.
But yeah,
The
we'll have a chat about
topic
this.
we can address. I was thinking about it, but we can talk about it later. But like, what to expect when you see a psychologist?
Oh, that's very good. That's a very
Yeah,
good.
yeah. So people are like, "Ooh, or how do I start? Where do I start?" Kind of thing. Um, yeah,
There is one comment which is asking us to please answer Megha's question.
I did that,
You
but
did that, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think we've seen that. Okay, then again, thank you very much for talking to
Thank you
me.
so much, and you're doing a good job managing lockdown and navigating through that. So good on you for finally starting something you've always wanted to start. Like I said, it's finding things that you feel happy about and you feel mastery over. So you're navigating technology. Yay.
Yes, no, I think this is I'm very good at this. I'm very good at talking, and I enjoy talking to other people. So, yeah, this was really great, and we should really sit down and talk, like you said, next time about what to expect when you go to a psychologist, and
Mhm.
dive a little more into what is mental health.
Yeah,
Until then, thank you everyone who was watching, who commented. I hope we answered all your questions. Please stay at home. Please
yeah,
stay safe. Please wash your hands, um, and talk to people you love and tell them to stay at home. The only way we can get through this is together. Thank you and have a nice day. Bye.
you. Bye.